Welcome to the Lechtich Parsha podcast, where we delve into the Torah's timeless wisdom and uncover uplifting and empowering lessons tailored to the challenges of our generation.
A good night of Shabbos, Parshas Vayeira. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a wonderful week. This week's shir is sponsored Le'uli Nishmas Brian DeLeo, Bas Naftali Herzka. May her neshama have an aliyah. May she be a meditation for all of Klal Yisrael. This week's shir is sponsored as well by our corporate sponsors, the Haas & Zaltz Law Firm, Bluestone Brokerage, and Meridian Senior Health. Thank you very much for your partnership. For future dedications, please reach out to myself at 845-367-2959. Unfortunately, this was another week of trying times. Our fellow brothers and sisters are being slaughtered literally in Eretz Yisrael, on the Gaza Strip. As much as we try to stay away from using such graphic and atrocious words, unfortunately, there's no other words to describe and depict the dismal and dark times we're living through. May Hashem be mahapech, may He turn them over soon. May Yogain lesimcha, may we be zeichet to the gula b'karev. But for now, unfortunately, this is what we're going for. This is what we need for our tikkun, as a chidim, as individuals, and as a whole. For whatever reason, we don't understand, but this is the reality. While we hope that the violence of the barbaric terrorists would end soon, unfortunately, it's ongoing and it continues. It started Simchas Torah, and it's already 4 weeks later, Parshas Vayeira. And every week, we turn to the Torah, the truest and our only guiding light, in order to direct us in how we can stay strong and firm, even amongst all the turmoil that's going on. And this week, I think it's Pasha, it was a no-brainer to turn to the greatest episode of slaughtering of all time, not karbanos, not of animals, but of a person's own son, Avraham Avinu. He was commanded to slaughter his own son Yitzchak, the Akeidas Yitzchak, the 10th, the highest, the hardest of all 10 commandments. And I think if we turn there, of course, without firm, concrete answers, I'm not here to provide those. I don't have those. I don't think anyone does. But at least for some guidance, at least for some ray of hope, some ray of clarity, we can turn to, even during these times. On the surface, the commandment to sacrifice one's own son appears unfathomable and unparalleled. There's no greater nisayon that one can be faced with, le'aleinu. But Avram was. He was faced with a tzivui from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from Hashem himself. Hashem told Avram, Kachnos bincha es yichidcha. Take your only son, the one you love, Yitzchak, and take him on an altar and slaughter him. And while every child, son and daughter, is so cherished and beloved by their parents, there was a special, unique relationship that was found between Yitzchak and Avram, which was that Yitzchak was the only son, the only chain in the link to continue the legacy of Avraham Avinu. It was his only chance. Avraham Avinu was tested to go and shecht his son. The nisayon, the magnitude of this test, is simply incomprehensible. We can't imagine, we can't fathom the angst, the pain, the test, the ultimate test that Avraham Avinu was tested with, of shechting his beloved child, his only beloved child. And that's why we can understand why this is Akeidas Yitzchak, why on Yom Kippur we evoke this specific episode, Zechar Bris Avram of Akeidas Yitzchak, because we need this chus avos. It's the highest level, the epitome of bittul, nullification, of servitude to Hashem's ratzon, to whatever Hashem wants, the firmest example of emunah b'tachon. Yet, even after all of this, the Beis Halevi asks a profound and fundamental question, which we must address, which is as follows: that throughout the history of Klal Yisrael, we find numerous people and instances where they were Moshe Nefesh, where they mamish gave up their lives for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We find it, the Gemara Bava Basra talks about the Harugei Lod. We find this with Chana and her sons, that she was willing to give up their lives for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And you look over the past thousands of years, and there are many, many episodes of dying al pi kiddush Shem Shamayim, to give up one's life for the sake of heaven. Just to digress for a moment, we don't really have to look so far back to people that have given up their lives for kiddush Shem Shamayim. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says, he writes, every single soldier that goes to war and puts their lives on the line, when they die, when they go to the next world, they go to the Olam Emes, there's a certain special mechitza, a special enclosure that is closed off from the rest of the Olam Emes, special for them, for people that died, Akeidas Shem Shamayim, that cannot even be seen. Forget about they can't be entered, they can't visit. It simply cannot be seen by other people in the Olam Emes. Why? Because people that give their lives up for the protection and for the good of Klal Yisrael and for the Ratzon Hashem, that Klal Yisrael should be able to thrive and grow and perpetuate. People who are Moshe Nefesh for that simply deserve more, better, greater, and holier. And therefore, there's this special, exclusive partition, mechitza, in Olam Emes that is designated for these Kedoshim. And especially in recent times, the past few weeks, especially this past week, where we've witnessed the loss of dozens of precious young lives. These were young men who had their entire futures ahead of them, but they were determined to make sacrifices of their time, of their youth, of their energy, and tragically, not by their own plans, but ultimately their lives. Operating machinery, wielding guns and fighting for our protection, they made the ultimate sacrifice for the Klal and for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. These young men, these young soldiers, had their entire lives before them. But once they stepped onto the battlefield in Gaza, the deafening gunfire and the relentless machinery of war brutally shattered those dreams, and their lives were tragically cut short, leaving a lasting void in the hearts of the entire Klal Yisrael. And regardless of their past, whether they did mitzvahs or not, they will merit that special mechitza in Shemayim. And it's not only them, the soldiers themselves, that were Moshe Nefesh for Klal Yisrael and for Kadosh Baruch Hu, but it was their parents as well. Their parents that on October 7th knew good and well that it's, if not probable, but at least possible, that on that day, it would be their last chance to hug their precious child, to share a kiss or to exchange a word. They too made the ultimate sacrifice, offering their own children, l'shem Shemayim. May Hashem avenge their blood. But returning to the question of the Beis Halevi, the question is, we're seeing unfortunately, once again, a manifestation of the Akeidas Yitzchak, of parents, of children themselves giving up their lives for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the soldiers, the parents, Moser Nefesh on the highest level. So asks the Beis Halevi, what's so astounding? What's so incredible? Not chas v'shalom to underscore or to undermine the incredible act of going with his rizus, with zealousness, to be makriv, to sacrifice his own son for Hashem. But nevertheless, we do have to understand that if soldiers in 2023 can do this, and people in the times of the Beis HaMikdash and in the Gemara and Chan and her children, this is something that has been done over time. So the Bechir Sheba Avis, Avraham Avinu, if he was the holiest, the quintessential, the pinnacle of Kedusha, of B'tachon, of Chesed Avram. He was a man renowned for his kindness. He didn't give up. He davened for Sdaim. The Achnas Archim was limitless. He was a tzaddik hadar. So wouldn't we be able to expect of him the same thing, that he should be able to pass his test as well? If others throughout all the generations demonstrated such resolves, seemingly a tzaddik of Avraham Avinu's stature could do the same thing. So the Beis Halevi enlightens us that it's true. The godless, the greatness, the underlying gavros, hanefesh, conquering and overcoming this battle didn't lie in the physical act of the Akedah. That we've seen, and we see it now. The ultimate godless, the underlying greatness of this Nisayan was the fact that even though the most glaring and obvious questions and contradictions were there after Hashem commanded Avraham Avinu to go shech this child, he nevertheless didn't flinch. Avraham Avinu was 100 years old and Sarah was 90, and they had their miracle child Yitzchak. And Hashem told them, Hashem told them, look toward the heaven and count the stars. If you're able to count them, so shall be your offspring. Hashem made a divine promise to Avraham and Sarah, that you will have offspring. From you will come the Shvatim. From you, Klal Yisrael will be Makabel the Torah. From you, Klal Yisrael will go into Eretz Yisrael. From you, Malchus Beis David and Mashiach will emerge. All of a sudden, they're faced with a commandment, a tzivui, to go shecht this son, this link to the future. Says the Beis Halevi, the fact that Avraham Avinu didn't flinch, that he remained in his unwavering resolve in the face of uncertainty and confusion, the fact that he did not allow his heart to ponder or inquire, and that he made sure that his sole focus was on fulfilling the Ratzon Hashem, and that nothing else was able to creep in or infiltrate. Nothing else mattered, nothing else bared any significance, and nothing could deter him. And with that unwavering emunah b'tachon, he went with his rizos, and he prepared his donkey, he took his knife, and set out for Har HaMoriah, fully committed for one thing, for Dvar Hashem. The Eibishter Zogt, Hashem said, I have to go and do this mitzvah, to bring my son as an offering. That's all that mattered. And all of the questions, uncertainty, confusion, things to ponder, they were put on the back burner. They were put aside. Right now is not the time. Says the Beis Halevi, this was the greatness, this was the beauty and the true overcoming in the Nisayon of Akeidas Yitzchak. Yes, there were others that gave up their lives al pi kiddush Hashem, and there are those that are doing so now. But the talich, the way it's done, without any questions, even when they're so obvious, when things seem so contradictory, when Avraham Avinu could have asked, Hashem, how can you command me to shech my son? But you told me that kol yeh zarecha, you told me that this is my link to future dairis. So Hashem, you're upgefragt. Hashem, I have a kash on you. Never did Avram allow his heart, his mind, his brain, anything to exhibit, to feel such thoughts. And certainly, he didn't express those. He didn't say anything. He was never mahar her beliba, says the Beis Halevi, of such things. And for that unwavering strength, that firm bitachon, that's what we look at. That's our role model of emunah bitachon, that Avraham Avinu remained undeterred from all the uncertainty and seeming contradictions, and instead turned to one thing only, which was Ratzon Hashem. That was the godless. That was conquering Akeidas Yitzchak. Now, while it's always difficult to apply these lessons, the highest levels of emunah bitachon and resolve and resilience of our forefathers to us, I'm talking to myself, I'm just sharing it with you, but I think that we can draw inspiration, we can draw chizik from here to our current situation. We have questions, we may feel contradictions, there may be forces that are attacking our emunah bitachon, that are saying, look, how could this be? And we're not going to go into those questions. They talk for themselves. We don't have to discuss them, but they're there. As hard as it may be, we have to look to the Avos and how they dealt with these situations. And Avraham Avinu remained focused on one thing, the Vayeira in front of him. While we are experiencing similar feelings of questions, of uncertainty, or contradictions, they may be there, but we can't lose sight of the emes. And that's the Vayeira in front of us. That's to be mamshech, to continue in our Avodas Hashem, continue increasing in our Avodas Hashem, doing for our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, doing for ourselves. The questions, ultimately no one has answers. All we have is the Torah. And the Torah tells us, Avraham Avinu exemplified, that the way to go is sometimes by putting the questions aside. He had many questions, but he didn't ask them. He didn't let his heart go astray, lose focus. And we have to do the same. And the more we connect and stay plugged into the emes, into the Torah, into mitzvahs, the answers will come and clarity will set in. And while this may not be the best answer and the best approach, put the questions aside, this is what Avraham Avinu did. He had questions, but he didn't ask them. We too, we may have questions. How? Why? What's going to be? How can this be? But sometimes we have to remain strong. We have to just put them on the back burner. Wait, we'll get there. Hopefully very soon we'll hear all the answers. We'll hear all the clarity that we've been waiting for from Mashiach Tzidkenu. Amen. I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you all enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos.
I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos.